welcome to the Kitoko Podcast today with Yannick Blätter, Generation C expert, podcaster, founder and managing partner of Neoviso, and also founder of Modular Media. Very warm welcome, Yannick.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hi, guys.
And as always, Amadeo, my managing partner and also founder of Kitoko People. We will have this podcast today together. And I think for me it's important before we start to know a little bit more about yourself. Yannick, who are you besides Neoviso as a personality? And then also, what's your passion and how everything started here with Neoviso in this beautiful office here in Queens where we drank an espresso before.
Yeah, so thanks for coming here and seeing our office. So I'm Yannick. I was born in Nidwalden, a rather traditional canton here in Switzerland. Went to school there and actually was always curious about marketing and brands, but also leadership, like getting people on board and achieve something as a team. That was always cool for me. When we did Matura, we always organized, all the parties and the kiosk that you had to do to gather some money for your Matura Reise. And at that time, maybe who am I outside of Neoviso? I did a lot of music, actually, something that even here some people don't know. I almost was on the way to study jazz music. I was playing trumpet and the drums and some piano. So I probably was always a little bit creative and always fascinated by some things, especially entrepreneurship, doing your own thing and like going probably the extra mile is also something you would connect with me. And this is where it probably all started, always with the idea not the idea, but actually with the goal or the urge to start something on my own. And 6 years ago, then I decided to do that with Neoviso. I don't know if I have to. You can let me know if I should continue or not. But at 6 years ago, actually 7 years ago, there was with my friend Loris and Donny, we actually created the Neo Network. That was or is still a student association that we started at the University of Zurich and the ETH. So we invited companies to present themselves in the evening, 6 o'clock in the evening, keynote style for an hour, and then apéro for all the students. And we actually managed to get like 50, 100, 200 people to the lecture hall, which was not that obvious. And a lot of people were interested, and the companies were interested in doing that because they said, hey, wow, a lot of students are coming, so that's good for us to do employer branding and recruiting. And what I realized, first of all, it's all about the content. So talk about something special, not about your HR numbers, like how many people you are. Talk about what's your vision, what's your future as a business model. So students were interested into that. And then also, the second thing I realized was that a lot of companies had questions. How do we reach then the students and how do we attract them? And out of that, actually, the whole idea from Neo Network to Neoviso then came as a company where I started doing keynotes and workshops about Gen Z. And I started it on my own. And this developed over the last 6 years now, and currently we're 27 people. And with those 27 people, we cover 3 aspects. I already told you at the Espresso with data and insights, where we look into the Gen Z strategy, where we help companies and consult them in regards to Gen Z, and content team, where we create especially social media content and for the companies to attract young generations.
Nice journey. So congratulations to that achievement. And I would like to know, like, when you look back 6 years ago, you started, and how different is it today? You said the number of employees different, but about the vision, about the culture, about the spirit, how did that change? Or you still feel this energy from the beginning and this entrepreneurship, or did you become too big too fast?
Yeah, that's a question we also ask ourselves this year, but I'm going to talk about this in a minute. I think my energy is probably still the same. but I have to invest it differently. In the beginning, you do everything on your own. I don't have to tell you that. And with yourself and all your friends and companies that you work with, you know that struggle. You do everything on your own. Then you get people on board, which is cool. So you can give out some work and like not do it yourself, but also you lose some things like content production. You see some people here editing videos. That's something I don't do anymore, or not that often anymore, because I don't have time for that, which is sometimes a bit sad, because it's a creative process that I really liked. But nonetheless, I'm really enjoying the transformation of myself, because usually I would say you grow, or that's my experience. You grow from from yourself to, for example, 6, 7 people. Then you realize, okay, that's a cool number of people. We can give out some work, and we have to think about, do we want to stay like this or not? Although you're doing a lot and you really have to lead 6, 7 people at the end on your own, because it doesn't make sense to make hierarchies or like leadership at that moment. You can give out some tasks, but that's okay. But then we said, okay, we have some projects sold, we have some customers coming, we have some visions too that we want to achieve. So we said, okay, let's grow again. Especially last year, in 2021, we grew from 7 to 20 people in 1 year. And that was a strategic decision that we said, hey, we need to be bigger with all the 3 pillars, that we have enough people and don't have a bottleneck. And the challenge is then from 7 to 12 people. That was good, but exactly at 12, 13 people, you realize, we have now an issue not with culture, but with processes, communication, leadership, ownership. And then we actually changed the leadership style again. We got a GL, a managing board, or a Geschäftsleitung there, and continued to 20. And so, of course, my job as a managing director, you would say, has changed 3 times over the last 3 years, I would say. And the energy is still the same, but I think you learn, the bigger you get and the more you have to adapt your role, the more you learn about yourself. So energy is the same, tasks are completely different, and also responsibility. And I always say that's a cool thing that you grow, but the challenge is you're always between, you're very euphoric, how do you say, like euphoria, you're like super happy about like what's coming and what's going on there. And then from that, maybe in 60 minutes, you go into panic mode where like, oh shit, we have numbers or challenges to do. So always between happiness and panic, that can go very fast. So that's probably the biggest experience I had. Okay. Yeah. How about you? I mean, how is your daily?
So our company is now like exactly where you were with 5 people, and sooner or later now we have a good setup. Also the thing with the bottleneck, you have also always be aware. Hey, what's up? Do we have enough people for the work which is coming? Yeah. But now the setup is good, and I think definitely you change the managing board. You change how you lead. And we have the same experience, but at the moment I think with 6 we're really good. 5 we're really good, and the setup is really good. So we are at the point where we are okay, not the euphoric point, but neither the panic. We're like stable at the moment. I think, but we had the same experience. I think. And
it's also not planned that we are growing in employees. Now we really have a core team, and we want to go into the future with that team and to get stronger. And at one point, there will be the question: do we want more people? But we also see, you have to be more. You carry more responsibilities. We also like our freedom. We want to have enough holidays, and there's always a conflict if you grow and have more responsibilities. There is maybe a fear of losing that, but it's not necessary.
But that's a cool point. I think building the strong baseline. I think I built a very strong baseline in terms of content or what we do as a company, who we are, but. The leadership team we have a GL of 3 people, so 3 main people that are on the board, and then we have in total 5 people that are head of functions, and developing that was actually a development over the last 2-3 years especially, and we didn't build that base very maybe correctly, because it was just my company and I started it, and so it developed in this way. But I strongly believe that it was now this year that we had to do that. Processes, communication, you're 20 people. Last year in September to December, you have busy season, everyone has their budgets, they want to do something with you, so you're good to go. And then now you have the beginning of the year, you have to sell some stuff, you get some declines where people say, no, we don't want to work with you. And some people were frustrated, and we had to go over the base again and really invest a lot of, not money, but especially time. So I think that's very, very important. And that's also something I underestimated, how much time it needs with 20, 25 people to get those things going and do some changes there.
Yeah. So I understand, like you were really service based, you pushed forward in the services, so you were really good in what you're doing. You knew like what were you doing in services, but then on the other hand, the leadership team in the core were kind of behind at this moment. Really interesting point. And then I was also, when we work with high performing teams or with leaders, they told the same, in a way you're really visionary and euphoric, but in the other way you're panicking. So what are things that helps you in this moment, neither when you're panicking or really euphoric, to in a way to regulate yourself, because these are really strong emotions.
Strong emotions, true. I think people would say now, you have to find the balance, but to be fully honest, like there's no balance in this moment. That's why you chose probably that path. I think we have to be honest here. What I definitely like mentally is for something I always did was going out with friends, and especially when I was studying, I did during the masters, I was also already having my company. So although I had so much to do, I always said, okay, you know what, Wednesday evening, let's go out, let's do something completely different and talk with people, something else than just business. Now currently it's running, stuff like this, and so that's the classic one, I would say. Then additional to that, what I really like to do is planning my week very, very precisely and be honest with myself, clear some dates out, make space, and especially also just prioritize yourself. What are you doing and what you shouldn't be doing this week? So these are probably more the classic ones. What I can just recommend is actually when you have this panic or also euphoric moments, like happy moments, or you have some good ideas, just move fast, like really, really fast. With challenging times, we have meetings here where we say, okay, that's an important point. We have to tackle that problem or a challenge. Let's do this, and then let's talk on Friday or next week with this person. And I say, no, you know what? Let's get this person right now into this room, discuss it, and get it done. So really be and move super, super fast. Then what I would also recommend in the challenging times is also, you have that, but as a leader, you're the last one who should get off the boat, as you would say. So you should be the one that has to be the most motivated and the most pushing, so should always believe the most into the company or into the challenge. And people feel that, and although it's sometimes hard, you really have to do that. And what I also like there is actually think about not why am I feeling like this, that's also good, but then directly think about how do I change the mood of people, right? And be honest there and direct with them. So that definitely helps. And I just like to be fast. I like to be honest and direct with people. That's good. And also, I think also let your team be part of those emotions, right? Because then you would think like, they shouldn't feel it. Of course they should feel that you're kind of maybe in a panic or like in a bad mood sometimes. You also should be in a good mood. I think people really, they feel that. I'm coming into the office 10 times and 9 out of 10, I'm super happy and making some jokes, and bring some good spirits in. And maybe one time I'm not that happy, or I'm a little bit focused or like sad or angry or something. And people feel it. And they also know when I'm angry about certain projects, I also tell them, or I'm not angry at them, but I'm telling them, look, I think we should have done that differently. So there's like your private life that you should organize and have the balance there, but that's super, super difficult. And then also get things or fix things super, super quickly.
Bring it on the point.
Yes,
as you said.
So you mentioned the word If I would ask your colleagues here, how would you perceive you as a leader? And you mentioned like being very honest person. And when I'm entering this meeting room, I saw a poster at the door where there were like words like inspiring, courageous, flexible, honest. Are these the values of yourself, of your company, or is this the young generation that these values are very important?
Yeah, it's funny. The values are there. That was a process. We actually we split the whole company into 5 teams, and we asked them, hey, if you have 5 to 7 words, how would you describe our values now and also for the future? So they wrote down all the values, they explained it. We got all the different words into one online survey, and we asked then every employee to rate it again like 4 or 5 weeks later, because then no one knew again who wrote which word. 1 to 5, and then the strongest 5 got, or 5 here got out of that. And then we said, let's print it out, put it on the wall, and then let's wait until December. And in December we're gonna look back again and think, are these the values, or is there something missing? Because we have now honest and authentic here. I'm not sure if those 2 words are a little bit too much overlapping. Maybe no, we will see. I think that this is definitely something the young generation wants to be as a company or as an organization. Definitely. Especially flexible is something that's probably one of the strongest words that the young generation is wants to do. And I also think that's the biggest problem when I talk to companies and tell them, look, this is a young generation that's coming. I usually sum it up like this. They want everything to be flexible. They want everything to be instant, so in the moment, and everything should be more clear. That's a slide that I'm bringing to every presentation, and everyone can take a photo of that, or I'm sending them the slides, because at the end, everyone can think about, are we doing this right or not? You know, you could talk about recruiting, employer branding, selling, or whatever. Are we instant enough, especially to young people? Are we flexible enough, and are we clear enough? And flexible is a strong word. And when you talk to leadership people or leading people, you really see that they are not flexible enough in their thinking what it needs for the next 5 to 10 years, how to develop the company, attract young people on board, or attract young customers. So this is a big topic that the companies are discussing currently. How do we get flexible and actually manage to bring the services that we are bringing currently also in the future?
I see there we're changing out of Neoviso of the values out to the business world.
Yeah.
Really nice turn. There's my question. Do you see there a gap also between maybe older people which are leading, which the experience is super important, we don't have to discuss about that, but then also younger people which are coming from bottom up and have really if they have really the importance of the values of flexibility. And do you see there a conflict? Is there a gap between the generation, or what is your...
I mean, look, our mission is called closing the gap between generations. We are not the lawyers of the Gen Z. We're not coming and say, hey, everything what the young people are doing, that's the best thing. We just say, hey, look, in a lot of companies, you have this gap between young and older generations, just in terms of how are we doing business? How are we working together? What are our values? Stuff like this. And that's a challenge. I don't think that it's a challenge for every company, and also don't think that it's not solvable. I think every company can get over this, especially when you talk together. Obviously, with Sasha or Johan, I have a workshop that we do. It's like one day that we do with different teams. For example, we just did it for a hospital. And what are you doing is actually you bring the different generations together. Here with the hospital, it wasn't optimal, but you let them talk together. Like, hey, what are our values? What is important for me actually for the future? What's important for you? What's important for us? Stuff like this. But yes, currently it's a big challenge, because I mean, you don't have enough people on the job market. You have too many open positions. You need to recruit young people. You need to recruit all the generations. So you're in a heavy fight with that, and you have to think about your employer branding, about your values, and especially young people that come into a company where they see, hey, this culture is not for me, or also the leadership in the team is not for me, then they are gone very, very fast. And that's a big challenge for companies. So they have to change, and young people can choose where they want to work in a lot of cases, not in every case. So, yeah.
And when you're in a position of a company that has this issue, like you have this younger generation coming with a very clear wish, what they want, they have a clear, it's also a generation that can raise this question, what is actually a happy workplace? And then you have a high percentage of people that are very into the business for a long time. And what would you advise? You mentioned just bringing them together, but you can also not only attract the young people, you might risk losing the older generation.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge, to bring everyone or have everyone staying and happy, and not someone getting angry because you change something. The biggest problem is that older generations are looking back at their youth, or like at that time when they were younger, and they think about how their reality was. So it was completely different. That's why they're getting angry currently. If you look at the media or on LinkedIn, you have a lot of different opinions, because young people are requesting a lot of things. They want a lot of things. So you have this gap because they say, hey, we didn't have that. We just had to work. We had to fight hard for what we want. We are the real workers, and the young people, they don't want to do that anymore. Every generation had that gap, but especially now, yes, the work or the labor market really has changed in favor of a younger generation and the people that are looking for a job. So I would say, hey, don't take this picture for granted. Really look behind the scenes of Gen Z. How are they choosing an employer? Then also I'm telling them, hey, be open and think about your employer branding, about your recruiting. You have to adopt that, because either you have a problem or not. And if you have a problem, you can, of course, say or complain about everything, but it doesn't solve the problem. That's what I'm telling them. So I tell them, look, check out, how are you perceived as an employer? Like, what are your attributes? What are your advantages compared to other companies? Of course, we do workshops with them where we show what's going on Snapchat, what's going on TikTok, what do people say in our survey. So we try to explain that they realize, oh, I had an opinion about that, but I never had an answer or a solution for that. So that's definitely something we do. And then we also just tell them, hey, you have to switch up how you do meetings, how you communicate, how you develop people. Because don't forget, you have young people coming in. You actually exactly mentioned it. They are coming into a company that we have a lot of people working 20, 30, 40 years. And we have young people coming in saying, I'm going to work there 1, 2, 3 years max, because I want to have some experience. And if you don't keep them in the first 12 months or like 6 months and do meetings and coaching with them, you're probably going to leave them because they never get integrated as well enough. So companies are still looking or working in this 12-month period of development, and at the end of the year we're going to have our salary and development meeting. Look on LinkedIn now, especially 1st of October was like the day where a lot of companies do their how do you say that, like advanced system where like you get promoted, the promotion system. Everyone has a new job, especially in the big corporations. And I say, look, if you only do that meeting once a year in a very deep way, then probably that's 1998 and not 2022. Right? No, you have to do meetings every month. You have to develop them. You have to set goals in a short-term way, clear goals, and get people developed that, so they think, wow, this SME company or this large company, whoever it is, that's cool. I get developed. I learn new things. I get new responsibilities. I learn from my leader as mentors. That these are things that really are important for us, that we also have to put into the companies as a mindset change, how fast it should be.
I can totally agree with that point. Also, one of our survey was really pointing out when it came to career management skills of young people, what they really pay attention when it comes to their career is really like the personal growth, also the business growth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and in this way, we also lecture my future model at the FHNW in Muttenz, and it's also a question to you: how do young people, in your opinion, create their future?
In Europe or
No,
in my
Europe,
opinion?
yeah, in your opinion,
Yeah.
how they
in my opinion, sorry. Yeah.
in the States. Let's talk about the States. No. In your opinion, I also saw a survey where you mentioned a little bit, and it's also a topic for us, and we're really curious. How do you see that? How they create their career?
So after their university or after their apprenticeship, I think they have the urge to learn a lot. So they really want to develop themselves and learn a lot. I think they want to see a lot of things in the first 2, 3, 4 years. That's very, very important. And the best way would, of course, be for companies to see that in one company so they can show them a lot. So first challenge for companies is actually, they just say, yeah, you have to do that for 2, 3 years, and then we will see where it goes.
They turn off.
Yeah, they turn off. They say, you know
like,
what? Why should I stay here for 2, 3 years? I want to develop quick. Then I would say they don't want the classic career anymore where it's just about money. A lot of generations before were like, okay, where do I earn which money? How do I develop? It's just clear that you do the career and that you get into the next step and stuff like this. And I think young people really, they don't only think about that. I should rather say they also think about how can I self-realize myself, like Selbstverwirklichung, like how do I really get to the next point of stuff I really want to do, right? Because I think then you have the balance of work that you do, like professional work in a professional setting. You earn money and you actually cover the topics that are most important to you. You know what I mean? So these are things, these 3 things are super, super important for them. And companies have to think about how do we get that to people. Then I think young people really get into the filter bubbles on LinkedIn, on TikTok or whatever, where they can also compare themselves to other people. That's a challenge. This can be stressful, but it can also be super inspiring. I mean, if you're in finance, you probably land in a finance bubble on TikTok very fast. So you kind of see how are other people working, what kind of companies are there, how do the offices look like. So people get maybe also frustrated very quickly because they can compare themselves. So that's also an issue. Actually, they don't want to move super, super fast. But on the other hand, they also want to move fast because they can compare themselves and see what others are doing. So they also want to have that. So they're maybe not, how you said it, they don't have enough time to wait. That's something I would definitely say. And I also think young people are progressing their career, especially between 23 and 30, where they get a lot of inspiration, but they don't know what to do. So they actually try a lot of things. And at one point between those years, they realize it and then they go full in. Because people always think, between 14 and 19 years old, you're kind of identifying yourself and you're finding yourself, which is true as a human being and values and all those things. But career, professional wise, a lot of things are still coming later because you still realize it there. So you listen to podcasts, you read the news or whatever, and you follow some YouTubers, and then you think, okay, that's cool, and I also want to do that, whatever industry it is. Yeah. Well, what would you say there?
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned some points. I think most of the people also where we did our survey, they answered that they don't want to work in first place for money. So this is also a topic you mentioned. And then furthermore, to choose a job where you have also your free time and where you can bring your passion in was also a tremendous result where we asked and where we gathered. So they choose the job mostly beside, and also that they can part-time do their passion, so what they love, what they do. So these are interesting points. I think the two most valuable for us. And then furthermore, we also asked about leadership styles and the transparency of a leader, and also this flexibility which they want are points that you also mentioned. So it's really interesting for us also, and then it's also for me it would be interesting also to ask you, as a leader of a young company. I worked here, and it's like everyone has fresh sneakers. The people are really young. They're open-minded. They tell you, hey, what's up? So it's a really young company. You mentioned some leadership skills beforehand, but as a leader in an organization, and what would you mention? How leading young people? You told before, a lot of meetings, like getting closer that they or be close to the generation that they feel they can develop. But furthermore, what would you say is an advice to lead younger people?
Probably it's not something new that I'm going to say directly now, but it's still very valid, and that is, you probably come for the brand, for the company, for the big thing overall, but you stay because of your team, and especially because of leadership. And you also leave super quickly when the leadership and the team is not good. When we ask Gen Z here in Switzerland and also Germany and think what's giving you the power to go all in with your work, like do everything you can, like be super motivated. Top one is having the best team around me, right? And a good relationship and a good team culture. So make sure as a leadership person, I think one of the biggest tasks is having a good team culture. Actually, really a killer team culture that's really like awesome. Killer, yeah. And not worry about what's the whole company culture. Because you see some companies that are as a whole like really strange, but they have one team that's going there that are awesome, right? And you can keep people. So make sure you have this team culture. Then also make sure that you are a coach and not a boss, apparently, because the boss, a lot of people can be the boss and can decide, but the question is, can you coach people, look after them? I think that's super, super important. Also make sure that your team is happy and healthy, especially mental health topics. I mean, look at the numbers, like 50-60% is saying, I'm worried about my mental health. 60 or 58% told us, you have from 1 to 7, and 7 was like, yes, I fully agree. And it was like, mental health is important to me. So 58% said 7, right? And 85% in total were like 6 or 7. So top 2, they said, yes, mental health is important for me. So make sure you have that, right? For example, a friend of mine is working they have a startup called Mood Talk. I don't know if you heard about that. So teams can just like every week or every 4 weeks, whatever they want. It's like a 1-minute survey, and you kind of check in, and then you discuss the results and stuff like this. So it's pretty cool. So I think stuff like this you have to implement, even if you're not the one that's the biggest on that topic. I'm also not the most, psychological pro and like about all the feelings, That's why we have Ste. She studied that. She's very sensitive to people and like exactly knows who's feeling when, what do we have to adjust. Also sometimes when I maybe communicated too hard on some things, she cannot say, Yannick, that was maybe not optimal. But that's good. That's a good balance, because I'm the one who's pushing and motivating the team, and I always say I just have to put in the champions mindset, and then Ste is also wanting that. But on the other side, she says like, okay, we also have to look after the people, and I think this balance is great. So not every leader has to do it themselves, but they have to mention someone who's looking after that. And I would say that's even better, because then you have one person that's kind of communicating what's good and what's not so good in a team, and they also have to take on responsibility, and it's not only your fault or like your problem at that point.
It's a
no,
it's a pity that the people out there listening couldn't see the face of Yannick. He was getting so energyful and like full of energy. And I would be very curious to hear more about this champion mindset that you're trying to implement. Tell us more about this, because your eyes were full.
Yeah, true. Okay, look, I mean, there are a lot of things. You asked me earlier in this podcast, like, how did the energy change and how is the mindset changed? And something I learned probably already when I was younger, but especially now, was you of course you need the winner mentality. You want to win. You want to not win every game, but you want to win the year, right? I mean, this month even already, it has now 4 days and we probably had like 3 or 4 losses, but we want to think like champions. I also want to implement that within people. People sometimes challenge me on that thing, like, you are you champion? Yeah, you have to do it. But I think, what is it all about? I think it's a champion is someone who wants to win, of course, but is also looking after everyone else around you, and you want to win as a team. And I think also you never like no, or like losing, or like, okay, then maybe we do it next time and then we see, is probably not an option. Of course you have to be realistic. I also think the champion mindset is something that you have to instill into the team, that they realize, okay, we are capable of doing things that maybe from the outside is not expected, or actually they see it realistic. Because come on, you have the oldest person in here is 30. You have people that are 19, 20, people that are working for the first time in a professional way. You're growing, you don't have any investors. I mean, we don't have any investors, right, from externally. You just grow out of your own money. And then you say, look, we have to do that. We're able to do that. So you're kind of the coach of the whole team. That's very, very important. And at the end, I think you lead by example, as we all know, and here people really, really seeing these things, right? I mean, if you plan something in, you are doing it. There are not a lot of topics that I'm telling my people that are not doing on myself. When I tell them, organize yourself like this and this, I'm not the chaotic person. If I tell them, hey, look after your health, it's not something that I wouldn't do, right? We had a challenge, Roger and I, he on my podcast, and he told me, Yannick, but now it was like in November, he said, like, we could do a triathlon next year in June. Let's do one, let's set up our own and let's train. And then we said, okay, let's do. So we were both all in, and like we were talking the whole company to, like, yeah, today we'll go swimming, training, and the magnesium we were like fully on it. And that was pretty fun. And challenge like this. And people just also know that I probably then I don't give up. That's also something that I hate it. I hate it really. And that's something you could talk about, but if you show them over 6 years, they probably know it at that point. And I think, look, I also have it on one of my slides, one of the last slides usually, where I say, yeah, you have to do everything multimedia and digital and fast, but on the other side, emotions are still an important part in leadership. And if you want to become a champion, then you have to get a champion team on board, and that's not only me, it's with everyone. And yeah, I mean, I could show you some speeches in our all hands meetings that I did, where I was just pushing that and saying, like, this is not good, here's what we want, here's where we go, and we can achieve that and do that. And people not only get motivated, I think even more important in this champion mindset of a leader is actually you create trust. Because there were situations in this year where almost no one in here believed that it can somehow go well this year, and we did probably everything wrong they thought. And yeah,
what a year for you. What a year then, huh?
It's crazy. And not that they were lost, not at all, but they would say, maybe not sure. And you just say, okay, let's continue, and let's get better next week and next month or next project. Let's optimize that. And I mean, sorry, maybe last remark on that, but there are always things like, the entrepreneurs, they're waking up early, 5 o'clock, stuff like this. And yes, I'm not waking up every morning 5 o'clock, but there are a lot of mornings I wake up at 5 o'clock because I just like to be productive in the morning or do my things and get things done. But you could talk about it and then do it for 3 months, and then that's good. But if you do it over 5-6 years, then probably they can trust you and they know, okay, he's all in on that. And you don't have to be perfect all the time, but I think you have to be consistent. And that's something I really learned, and I always telling this to my friends, like everything you do consistent is probably something that's making you as a person, and also as a leadership person. And I not everyone has to have that, but I sometimes challenge that also in interviews we have, that they have some kind of champion mindset, in whatever they do. Can be sports, can be business, can be a hobby.
It's interesting because I think consistency is one of it's so important. Also, we feel also that consistency is key. Yeah, so really interesting how you describe your champion's mindset. Besides, I love to wake up also late sometimes. Go to the office at 9. So I think it's a balance. It's definitely wrong that you said, hey, you have to wake up all the time 5 o'clock. So it was really inspiring also to hear. And I think also when I talk about our team, we have so different skills and so different personalities. I also loved when you talked about Ste, I saw our chief happiness chief happiness officer. And I think that's key, that your team is a champion team, that you have also different skills within the GL or the managing board, also in the team. So it was really inspiring for me to hear that, Yannick.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one last question. I'm full of energy. It was a really nice talk, and I would like to hear from you. You mentioned at the beginning, you almost ended up as a jazz musician, and when you see, are there some parallels between a career as a trumpet artist and what you're doing now?
That's a good question. I think some discipline and also here consistency, because everyone who plays the trumpet, there are some technical things you do. So etude and like some I don't want to boring, but you have, all the scales and all the things and the theories and the jazz standards you have to learn. But there are also some basic things. I mean, if you press a key on the piano, usually it sounds the same. That you bring a tone out of your trumpet, there are a lot of things that you have to do that it sounds well. So you have a lot of intro, like 25 to 30 minutes warm up. You have to do that all the time. Everyone who does sports also knows that from their side. So you do that. It's boring, but you have to do it every day. Then you practice, and it's a lot of discipline to go through those scales and exercises, jazz, but also classical way. So I learned that from, I don't know, when I was 10 to 18, 19. I was doing that every day. Then I also played the drums. So I practice, I don't know, from 5 to 10 to 15 hours every week, and distributed over the days that you have to do it every day. And if you don't do it for like a week, then you lose your technique that you have. And I think these are definitely things. So what are you doing every day? What are you doing every week? That's the question. As a leader, as a career, as a company, these are things that are super, super important. And then also you have to think about, as a jazz musician, then how do I market myself and how do I get business in, right? You could teach other people, but also you have to play, you have to market yourself. I think a lot of jazz musicians are very well artists. They are really, really good. If you study jazz or whatever here in Switzerland, you're really, really well educated. So you don't need that for all the concerts you're playing. But all those musicians, or a lot of them, are very bad marketeers. I also told that some musician friends already. So So really think about the marketing. You have to push yourself also as a person. You don't have to put yourself like, hey, I'm the biggest, most important person here. But just put out what you do, document it, show it to friends and family, to possible clients. So these are some things I would put in a similar place.
I like that answer. Yeah,
and here also to our listeners, I think, about marketing yourself. Yannick has also the Navigator podcast, so definitely listen in if you're interested. And if you don't have any more questions, Amadeo, I would close here. Thank you so much, Yannick, for having you here on our podcast. It was really interesting. to hear about your success stories, but also about your harder times, which are definitely both, and to the people out there. I hope you enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to the next episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome.